So, let's talk about microphones. And everybody wants to know, what's the best microphone that I can use? And that's sort of like asking, how long is a piece of string? Well, it depends. It depends on where you are, how you're going to use it, how much talent do you have? Do you want to do multiple microphone situations? Do you want to do multiple disciplinary microphone settings? And what are you recording on? Sound like a lot? Well, it is. I mean, on the professional level, there's several dozen microphone companies that would love you to spend several $1,000s on a large diaphragm condenser microphone and get that really, really great sound, which is amazing, but it's going to sound terrible outside. And of course, there's hundreds of consumer-level microphone companies that would love for you to think you can spend $35 and get a good sound, which isn't possible. So what's the number one kind of microphone that you should consider that is sort of all weather, all situation? I mean, there's no such thing, but if you had to consider one, what would it be? It's a microphone called a dynamic microphone. There are condensers and dynamics, and a few other little ones in between that we really are never going to use for podcasting. But a dynamic microphone is really the simplest kind of microphone. It's really just a windscreen that the sound passes through, hits a diaphragm, little polymer thin thing that moves back and forth. It's very sensitive to sound pressure waves. Attached to it are these copper-looking rod things that then go back and forth against the E-shaped magnet there. These are all technical terms, of course. And creates a magnetic pulse based on the waveform and the movement of the diaphragm that goes down the cable as a voltage and gets picked up by your analog to digital converter. And that's basically the most simple audio electronic device we have, maybe except for a speaker. And if you've ever seen how a speaker works, it works like this. The voltage comes down the cable and then hits this E-shaped magnet-looking thing and then goes into these copper-looking things that are called voice coils. And because of the magnetic charge and their copper, they go back and forth depending on the voltage. And those little coil roddy-looking things are attached to the piece of paper speaker cone, pushes the speaker cone back and forth, and then makes the sound pressure levels. And if you notice anything about the difference between a microphone and a speaker, you'll notice they're really doing the same thing, only in reverse. Two of the most, if not the most simple electronic items that are so powerful and make up the fundamental nature of what we call a public address system, or you've heard me say, or others say, the PA system. And this was invented way back at the early part of the 20th century to be able to address tens of thousands of people at the same time. Lovely. What does this matter to us? Well, a dynamic microphone, by the nature of its simplicity and its electronics, forces us to have to be very, very close to the microphone while we're speaking. And it handles what we call plosives, which I'll speak about in a moment, very, very well. In fact, a plosive, if I get up close to the shotgun microphone I'm using here, Peter Piper picked a peck. Plosives are explosive air that comes out of your mouth when you do a P sound. And we want to be very careful with our plosives on condenser microphones, and not as much with dynamics because they've got that windscreen built in and they're much more robust. In fact, a dynamic microphone is so robust you can bounce them off the stage, you can swing them by their cables, you can drop them in your beer, and they're still going to work. In fact, after a nuclear war, we'll probably just see a lot of glass and dynamic microphones everywhere. They're that robust. But nothing is for free. There's always a trade-off, and dynamic microphones really don't sound as good as the beautiful-sounding condenser microphones that are its partners in crime of transducing sound. And why is that? Well, they're just not that sensitive. And that's good and bad. For a noisy environment, it's very good because a dynamic microphone will tend to reject everything from everywhere else except what's right in front of it. And we're going to listen to this in a moment. A condenser microphone, although it has a very narrow polar pattern, which we're going to talk about in a moment, is still so sensitive it tends to pick up everything else in a room. Now, that's really good if you're in a quiet room because it does a great job of recording our voice. So all this theory to sum up, if you can find yourself a good, well-priced dynamic microphone like the AKG D5 or one of those, you're in great shape as a general microphone. Not the best microphone, but if you had to buy one, that's what I would do. And if you have multiple talent, then you need to buy one for every one of your talent because these microphones do not spread out to allow you to record more than one person at a time.